And welcome back to the Unfiltered Sports Weekly. I'm the Beeb,
I'm the Keb.
and we're light one, right?
He took another fucking vacation. That's what's
It's a
happening
short
here.
vacation this time. It's like a 30-minute vacation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He's had enough.
He's had enough.
You know.
So it's just me and the cab, and we're here
Yeah.
to talk about all the things that have happened over the last week in the world of sports.
What happened?
Lots of important things happened, but I would like to say the amount of crybabies in high profile sports these days is just astounding to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I said something that I've never said before yesterday or Saturday rather, and that I'll probably never say again. That I agreed with Danny Cannell. Now, if you don't know who Danny Cannell is, think about the most annoying person you've ever met in your life. Multiply that by about 5,000, and that's Danny Cannell. He
That
went to
said,
Florida. He went to Florida State. He's a fucking crybaby. However, motherfucker got a point.
he has said some things over the last 2 weeks that have made sense. I'll just say that. Like
Yeah,
he's actually posting, like, not just saying things, he's posting statistical data and relevant information with what he's saying. He's not just whining and crying, right?
you know. Before we get into the college football playoff,
Mm-hmm.
let me just say this about the Georgia Florida State game. And not really much of anything because if you've listened to me for 5 minutes, you guys know I'm a Gator fan. Either way, I win, you know? So, but I am a college football fan. I'm not touting, Florida. I've said on this program, Florida State should have gotten in, and I will die on that hill. However, the amount of people that don't have what I consider a relevant football IQ.
Okay.
Because the amount of tweets that I went through on my feed that said the college football playoff committee got it right. This is why that they didn't want FSU in. Okay. Do you guys understand that 95% of their offense
Gone.
did not play?
Right.
And all you have to do is listen to Kirby Smart's comments after the game to
You ruined my
understand
segment.
that you are a fucking idiot.
Let's just do my segment right off the bat. Mine
Okay.
as well. Scott's not here, right? So, my
I,
favorite.
I, I think he goes by Saint Joe.
Sorry, St. Joe. Oh well.
It's
Anyway,
like the Bruce Wayne
sorry
Batman
about that,
type
St. Joe. Anyway, so and this is funny because I don't know. We have, you and I, a let's just say a friend. We both have a friend who is a considerable Georgia fan.
Yeah. Might have been on the
And
program last week.
right. So he sends me a text, and he probably sent you the same text,
Oh,
right?
I you guys got my text and can understand the where I was. And so I wasn't replying to many people. So if you got a reply from me, you were important. But yes, he
Well,
did send me the text.
so he sends me the text, and the text says, you know what? I'm just going to bring up the text so I can read it verbatim. The largest spread of victory, 60, in all bowls history.
Right.
I sent him a reply. You know what my reply was?
What?
The Danny Cannell post that listed all of the opt-outs, injuries, and transfers.
Yeah. If you're a Georgia fan, winning that game by 60 is not something I would necessarily be proud of.
No, and the surprising reply was when I sent it, I said I told them not to feel too proud. Their entire starting roster was gone almost, right?
Yeah,
Either
yeah.
injured or opted out or transferred out. And then I was like, yeah, hey, you need to come down a peg. And he's like, well, we had transfers and opt-outs too. I was like, you didn't have transfers or opt-outs, not like Florida State had.
Yeah.
And there are on the list of you know how many names were on the list of transfers, opt-outs, or injuries to their starting lineup?
27.
27 names.
Wow.
Not it's obviously there's not 27 starters, but that's starters, rotational players, and one of those players is their most dynamic athlete.
Well,
Right.
the only notable player that Georgia had out, and that noise that you're hearing is St. Joe can't figure out his fucking mic.
It's fine.
The only notable player that they had out was Brock Bowers, Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the only notable player. And here's another hill I'll die on, because if you take that game and you say, you know, hey, let's just say it was Washington and Michigan and they let Georgia and Florida State in, right? If they had followed what they had always done and never left out a Power 5 champion and never dropped number 1 past number 4. Okay, so let's just say they had stayed that Florida or Florida State and Georgia may have played. They may have. We don't know. Probably not, but they may have. Anyhow, you take that game where no opt-outs, and Georgia might have probably still won the game, but I guarantee you that Florida's defense kept them in it.
Florida State.
Or Florida State's defense kept them in it. And that goes to say if Florida State had played Michigan, if Florida State had played, you know, the Washington-Texas game, which was stupid. I got a whole thing on that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a big Sark guy. I love that guy. And that guy got simply outcoached. And I'll tell you why when we get to that. But anyhow.
Anyway, so my favorite thing actually comes after that portion of the conversation. Because right as he's chatting with me about this awesome Georgia victory, and I'm trying to reason with him about all the opt-outs and the transfers out, a thing popped on my Twitter feed of Kirby Smart saying, and I quote, "People need to look at what happened tonight and they need to fix this." And so I clicked on the video and he's talking about transfers and opt-outs. I sent it to him. I was like, your coach Kirby agreed with me.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the conversation. You don't want to talk after that.
Right.
So.
And he's probably not going to want to talk after that. You know, you can't fault him though. I mean,
no.
He's a fan. You know,
hey, I mean, their team probably would have played just as good as any of the top 4 that played, right? During the playoff, during, you know, if they were going to play in the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl, they probably would have played with those teams pretty well. Sure. Maybe won, but that's not how. I mean, like they're experiencing what teams normally experience when they lose a game at the end of the year, and they'll get in the playoff. It happens to a lot of teams; they just haven't experienced it. Now they have.
Right.
So let me ask you a question: how many people opt out on Washington? How many people opted out of that game for Washington?
They're not going to opt out because they're playing for the national title.
Yeah. How many people? Well, did anybody opt out in Washington?
No, they wouldn't have done it because they're playing in the college football playoff. None of those players from any of those 4 teams would opt out because they're playing for the college football playoff national title.
They still have something to play for.
Right. And that's kind of the point I think Kirby Smart is making. Is like these games, besides the college football playoff, these players don't want to play in them because they're not worth anything to them.
All right. Let me ask you this. Okay.
True. But
let me ask you this. And St. Joe, you may remember, Beebs, you're not that much younger than us. But if you remember the height of the old bowl system, okay?
Yeah.
The height, like late 80s, early 90s, before the BCS and all this, the height where bowls fucking meant something, right?
Yeah.
How many of those bowls, number of games, would you say actually meant something towards the national championship talk? Maybe 6?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, the 6 top ones that you have now. I mean, basically the big ones that you think of now.
Right. So big name teams got it used to be that the SEC winner automatic bid to the Sugar Bowl, the Big Ten winner automatic bid to the Rose Bowl.
Right.
All these. So next year, so you had 6 games that meant something towards the national championship, 12 teams. So next year, maybe we have something similar with the 12-team playoff, but you still have a goddamn committee picking where those teams rank. So
Where's that soundbite from our favorite coach?
So my idea would be on how to rank those teams using the BCS computer model. Rank those 12 teams and get the fucking playoff committee the fuck out of there. Like Mike Leach said, he's a good guy. Why don't we make him part of the committee?
Right.
And get those guys out of there. Rank them, due to, because the BCS took like all the polls and like meshed them. I mean, I think the AP had a little heavier of a push, but it took the AP and the coaches and all these different polls in. So get the rankings, get the playoff committee out of there. But at least next year we'll have 6 games that will be more notable and maybe make the bowls that these guys go to. I mean, there are a lot of really good games.
There were some schools that they like. We're talking small schools that they're never going to play for a national title. That did show up. Their players showed up and they played. And that was one of the bright spots, by the way, of the bowl season for me was the University of Wyoming won their bowl game. How about that?
That's good.
They beat Toledo. Who would have thought? Right?
Toledo.
Well, so to your point though, Kev, I mean, they have a 12 team playoff, right? So next year they have is it this coming years that they have a 12 team playoff?
Yeah.
Next season. Next season they have a 12 team playoff. They go into it, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but then who plays in what? Who plays? Do the big bowls go away? I mean, they can't because there's still going to be the Rose Bowl, there's still going to be the Orange Bowl, there's still going to be the Sugar Bowl, blah blah blah. But it was one of those playoff games, just the bowl?
Okay, as I understand it, in the first round, the top 4 teams get a bye.
Okay,
as I understand it. So you that leaves eight teams, 4 games, right? So, and I believe that the first round is a home game for the higher seeded team.
Okay,
it's not in a bowl game, because they have to. 12 teams is very similar to the NFL playoffs. So, I believe that the first round, I could be wrong, but I believe the first round for the first 4 games are home games for the higher seeded teams. Then you get into the bowl system, and I believe you're going to see the bigger bowls have one. Because my question was, I wonder if the Gator Bowl here would have one.
right?
Like a quarterfinal game. Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure the Sugar, the Rose, the Fiesta, the Peach, the Orange, and the Cotton will be the bigger the bigger ones, the more towards the end, and then you have a championship game somewhere, probably Dallas or Vegas or wherever.
Sure. Well, I mean, the whole idea is that it makes it more competitive, right? It makes it where this whole opt-out thing wouldn't even be consideration because you basically have four more games.
Right.
I mean, essentially, if you come out, you have 4 more games. Who's going to opt out of 4 more games? Nobody, right? I mean, I don't think you would think and say, I mean, what's the reason that people are opting out right now?
Money.
Right.
Yeah.
They're opting out to say, they're opting out to say, I want to go to save myself to not be in to go to the NFL, right?
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
think about it. Think about it from their standpoint too. I mean, if the game doesn't mean anything, and you're not going to be on a national showcase to showcase your talents to whatever NFL team may be watching, you're just, you know, you're putting it up to get injured. And if somebody's going to have a high draft status, like Jaden Daniels, he didn't play against Wisconsin, because the dude's going to the NFL.
Right. Right. But I mean, I don't know. I just don't. Who's the last person that you can think of that opted out, big name, that it worked for?
Oh well, Jadeveon Clowney opted out his entire senior season because he didn't want to get hurt. He was the number one pick, so
Right. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, right? Christian McCaffrey is probably the biggest one where it came out and says, "I'm not going to play because of this." I mean, that's probably really the first one that I can come to mind or think of where it says, "Hey, he really maybe started this whole thing of the opt out," right? But after that, who can you think of to say, "Man, this kid opted out and it really helped him, or it hurt him, or something happened"? I mean, I can think of a couple instances. Right, there's a kid named Jamison Williams that plays for Detroit, and he played in the college football championship and tore his ACL, and he dropped. I think he dropped a couple spots in the draft, and it cost him $3 million for the fact that from where he would have got drafted to where he did get drafted. A couple different things, and yeah, look at Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette didn't play. And how did his rookie season go? He played what, 10 games and then hurt his ankle, and then he was out. Or let's look at Anthony Richardson. How's that going for Anthony Richardson, sitting out and saying, "Hey, you know what?
For the record, at the beginning of the season, I told everybody that he was going to get hurt because the dude got hurt all the time at Florida."
Right, right. But is the opt out? That's the thing. I mean, is it a good choice or a bad choice? Because the kids aren't ready for the NFL anyway. So when they go into the NFL and they realize it is a completely, vastly different game, I mean, they're going to get hurt in anyway. So
you want to hear?
I mean, it's money. It's money.
You don't want to hear the biggest BS I think about all these opt outs is these jerks on these teams who are opting out are still on the sideline for the bowl game.
Exactly.
I find that to be complete and utter BS. You quit on your team. You shouldn't be on the sideline. You shouldn't have been allowed to come on the trip. You should be off the team. I mean, you quit, right? You quit. So you're not allowed to go on the trip. We're not spending money on you. You're not eating food with the team anymore. You're done. Why are these guys? I mean, like, the thing that set me off the most was Caleb Williams. He went to the bowl game with USC and watched. And he watched this guy who hadn't played all season, freshman dude from USC, just light up the other team and win, something Caleb Williams couldn't do all year.
Right. Yeah, well, that guy's a big baby anyway.
Right. But that makes me the most upset because he opted out right away. There was no thinking about it like, oh, maybe I want to play in the bowl game. No, it was, oh, the season's over. I don't really want to play anymore. I guess I'm done. And you're kind of like, that just doesn't make you feel good, especially if you're a USC fan. I mean, like, if you're a USC guy, say you're an old USC player, like a pro watching, and you're seeing these guys who opt out. They're on the sideline with the team, but they're not playing for the team, even though they're not injured and they're the best player on the team. I mean, that makes you feel cheap. I feel like that makes you feel like your team is just cheap, like they're just using your team like toilet paper.
Yeah.
Would it be 1-ply toilet paper or 3-ply toilet paper?
Your choice, but for me, I was like, when you see these guys just hanging out on the sideline, I mean, what are you going to do to get ready for the NFL that practicing for another month and playing in another game isn't going to do for you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. So you get more experience, you get more practice, and you're in better shape. Why would you not want to do these things?
Well, so how do you fix it, right? And so, and this is, I think, goes back to a couple weeks, or maybe it was last week, I don't know, where they talk about the NIL, right? Are people opting out for this NIL? Are they doing it for
Yes,
money?
these guys who are transferring out and not
The
playing in the bowl games.
transfer, the everything. I think that's what they got to do. They have to put something in. If they're going to get NIL money or something, whoever's offering it to them has to put in, almost like they do with a NFL contract, where they say, if you play so many games, if you get so many catches, if you do something, but one of the things has to be that is, if you opt out, you don't get this money. So if you do something and there's something in the contract that says, listen, you're going to go here, we're going to pay you $3 million a year. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. But if you don't play in your game, your championship game, if you don't play in your bowl game, you lose $1 million. Well, guess what? I bet you they play in that game.
I think if you go the other way too, and similar to an NFL contract, if you put incentives in there, that
Sure.
that hey, we're going to pay you X amount, but if you make into your Six Bowl, then you get this bonus. If you make
Sure.
the college football playoff, then you get this bonus.
Sure.
And go that way with it. It's similar, but I would put in there, if it were me and I owned a big fucking company, and I wanted somebody like the Gators just signed DJ Lagway, right? And I'm gonna offer this guy, a shit ton of money. I'm gonna put something in there that says, hey, look, you can't transfer.
Right. Exactly. I think there's got to be something in order to stop this, because frankly, I just think it's ruining the whole college football game. I think it's ridiculous to watch that game and to see 27 people, sit out. It's just horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't do a lot for recruiting either.
No, it's not helping. It's not helping anybody. But I don't know. But then do you have another committee then that oversees who makes these regulations and who does this? I don't know. Then
I think the government's getting ready to step in.
I think in some states they already have.
I think they're going to start stepping in on this, because there has to be some sort of. I'm not saying the government needs to control it, but really there's no loyalty to anyone or anything.
No, not at all.
And I do feel like we're kind of in the Wild West of this, and I feel like it's. I'll give you another, for instance, that really surprised the heck out of me is you got Quinn Ewers, a quarterback for Texas, really good player, really good quarterback. Really, he can throw the ball all over the field, and he started for them every game this season. And they're doing the pre-playoff game. What's the press conference with Quinn Ewers, and the picture on Twitter was nobody's talking to Quinn Ewers. They're all talking to Arch Manning. And the dude hasn't taken a snap all season.
Yeah, he did. He took a couple of snaps in their final regular season game and in the Big 12 championship game.
Oh, when they're up by 40. Meaningless snaps.
I'm just saying, you said that he didn't take a snap all season, and I'm just saying that he fucking did.
All right, so he did. And I think he made $1 million per snap. But Quinn Ewers isn't on the NIL money like he is.
So Manning, though, was third string most of the year, and going into what we're talking about, the backup quarterback who was basically told, hey, you're not going to start because Ewers is coming back next year, said, okay, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So that made Arch Manning the de facto backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was funny. Towards the end of that game, you saw him warming up last night. I'm like, they are not going to bring that dude in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just think it's the whole something's got to change. Maybe the playoff thing will fix it. I don't know. Maybe, but
the Iowa head coach sounded off too. he was talking about this is a problem because they had kids opt out and they got crushed again. And they can't score,
No.
But I mean, Tennessee, they had opt outs and transfers too, and they all showed up and they showed up to play. But
Yeah.
that was a disappointing game. I mean, that Iowa Tennessee game was awful. In fact, and the Liberty Oregon game was even worse.
No, I'll tell you
Yeah.
the most disappointing game was the fucking Badgers because they led the whole game, the entire game they led, and then they just piss it away, and it just
It would have been
was-
a fun win. It would have been a win with an asterisk because LSU's starting quarterback, their best player.
no. There's no
wasn't on the field.
asterisk. There's no asterisk in football. There's no. The win is the win.
Well,
That's
yeah,
it.
I mean, Wisconsin got beat with LSU playing Nussmeier rather than Jaden Daniels, who
Yeah.
was a Heisman Trophy winner, and it just kind of goes to what we're talking about. This guy won the Heisman Trophy. He's trying to protect his draft status, so he's not going to
Yep.
play
Yeah,
in a meaningless game because Big Ten football sucks.
yeah.
It used to be
I mean,
though that
it
guy
was-
would show up and play that bowl game to showcase how good he really was, so a team would take him.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it is almost to the fact of it just doesn't matter anymore. Like you said, Kev, it used to matter. And no matter what
The bowl
happened-
games did, yeah.
Yeah,
the bowl games
it did. The prestige of any type of bowl game has gone away.
I mean,
And-
when I was a kid, it was like, okay, what bowl is your team going to?
Yep.
And what bowl is my team going to? And my bowl game is better than your bowl game.
Yep.
So fuck you.
Yep.
That used to be because the Gators in the mid '90s basically owned the Sugar Bowl.
Right.
And
Right.
and it was like, hey, we're going to the Sugar Bowl. It's one of the top 4 bowls in the country.
Right.
It's housed the national championship. I don't know how many times. I would say the top 2 bowls in the bowl system are the Sugar and the Rose.
Bar none. I think
With all due respect to the Fiesta and Cotton and Peach Bowl, and,
Sure.
and all that, but the Rose and the Sugar are the most, dare I use the word prestigious, chalked in history. And this whole thing is making a mockery because in the 80s, you would have never seen Michigan, Alabama in the Rose Bowl. You would have seen Michigan against Washington,
right.
out there. And that would have been probably the de facto national championship game,
Right.
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 under the old system,
Right.
and I'm talking pre-BCS,
Yeah.
and then Alabama would have played probably Texas because it was the SEC champion versus an invitational bid. So
Right.
Alabama probably you would have had a rematch over there in the Sugar Bowl. So you'd had the same 4 teams,
Right.
just a different configuration. And that's back when also, though, if Michigan and Washington played a close game, 28-27, 28-25, somewhere in there, and Alabama beat the shit out of Texas, they would have probably given the national championship to Alabama. And everybody had been in arms, and they argue about this, but that was the system, and everybody was okay with it. And I was okay with the BCS. It worked out. It didn't work out in my team's favor. One year it actually did, but the 4-team playoff is just, if you're going to have a playoff, you need it more than 4 teams.
Yeah.
You
Well,
really,
here's another thing I think we need to input here is I actually saw this statistic. You know how many bowl games there were in the mid 90s? Total number.
not as many as there are now,
So 19
right?
mid 90s. Okay. By 2002 there was like 30 some.
Sure.
How many do you think there were this week this month?
Oh,
I don't know the
60.
motherfucking number, but I do know that there were 2 teams that were taking apart a fucking Pop-Tart.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were.
The number is 64.
Yeah.
64 bowl games. And I actually don't. The reason I know that is because I tallied them here on our little pick'em sheet. So, but 64 bowl games, that's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot.
So,
Money. It's all money. All money in advertising.
How are we doing on that bowl pick'em there, Chief?
Well, you guys
I'm
don't
going to
want
say
to know.
Brandon ran away with it.
Hey, he cheats.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
going to say he ran away with it.
well, it didn't get any closer. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to say I brought up the caboose, which that's perfectly fine.
It was close, though. It was close.
Yeah, well, you know.
That's what happens when I don't pay attention when we're picking.
Mm.
I was just like, yeah, whatever.
Wait. I think
Yeah,
the most
we
important.
were too, liberty,
The most
liberty,
important
liberty.
question is who was right on the Liberty Bowl?
I don't know who was in the Liberty Bowl. I can't even.
Emu.
Yeah. And Doug,
Yeah. And Doug.
you know.
Mm, yeah.
Hey, look, a bee-boo.
I got that one wrong. I chose Iowa State. And they lost.
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes the Liberty is right, but
Well, let me ask you
we
this.
I thought we were doing Liberty because of the Liberty versus Oregon.
That's what I thought.
yeah.
Because that was the one game. Remember how I was upset? Because I thought there were other teams like that should probably be in a New Year's Six Bowl that Liberty's taking up space for. Like there were. And Liberty showed up. They hadn't played a game against anyone important all year, and they showed us why they hadn't. I mean, they lost. What was the final score? They scored two field goals.
Yeah. Oregon trounced them.
Yeah, and Oregon didn't even have their starting quarterback because he opted out.
Right, no,
Yeah.
Bo Nix played.
Did he?
Bo Nix played.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bo Nix played.
I must
Oh.
be thinking something else then.
You're thinking of transfer, the Oklahoma guy transferring in.
Oh yeah, They didn't. Oklahoma certainly didn't have their best players.
Yeah.
They still played good for a while.
Well,
I think it's funny how that matters now because in 2020, Florida played Oklahoma. And Florida had at least half their team opt out, but yet
Yeah, it
since
was bad.
Oklahoma won, it didn't matter. But now it matters. You know, I mean,
It mattered back then. I just
this
was
is
giving you a
fucking
hard time. Back then.
hypocrisy at its fucking best.
Yeah, I just keep that. I have to keep
There-
that because you beat us in the national title game, so I have to.
Yeah. So
You know, I
there
have to
were
keep
there were many Gator pages
Yeah.
that were informing their followers. Remember 2020 when Florida State fans just were relentless, and when Oklahoma beat the shit out of the Gators. I think we kicked a field goal. I think that's about it. But they're like, do not care about opt out. Give them the same shit, And I just thought it was funny.
That was a
Well-
major opt-out year for Florida. There was like 17 opt-outs, wasn't there? It was a
Yeah.
crazy number.
Yeah, it's basically their entire receiving core. I think we're when you play with players that I've never heard of.
That's
That's
bad.
bad. That's bad. It's bad because I'm a depth chart watcher. I want to know who is coming in for the offensive line and all that crap because I want to know who to blame. And when they start playing people with long last names, that you don't know.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we can get a look at the future of the game. Man, fuck that shit. I want to win this game.
I'll say this. The SEC will be lucky to have any more undefeated teams. I mean, make it all the way through the gauntlet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, adding the teams that they've added, it's going to be hard to not lose one game at least.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard not to lose one game at least. I mean, if you're Georgia or Alabama and you just added pick any of those teams, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, any of those teams that are, you talk about major SEC teams, then you add oh yeah, we're going to Austin this year.
I would include LSU in that too.
Yeah. Well, LSU. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to Austin or Norman this year. I mean, that's just, those are not easy stadiums to play in.
Well, neither are Texas A&M.
No.
It's not an easy place to play. I think it's interesting. You're going to get back Texas A&M game. Yeah. You're going to get, to see some matchups that you usually have to wait for bowl games to see.
Yeah, well, Oklahoma and A&M, that
Yeah.
was a big. I mean, those were some big games too. Nobody talks about that, but A&M and Oklahoma, those were big games every year as well. Before they left for the SEC.
Florida gets to go to Austin, and by the time we get there, Napier will have been fired, so we'll probably win that game.
It'll be the new coach bounce, right?
Yeah, I mean Napier. They're gonna. I don't know if you've seen the schedule, but Florida is ranked the #1 hardest schedule in the country next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I mean, it's stupid. Like, we could seriously go 0-5.
In the first 5 games.
We got, and that
I would not want to go to Austin, Texas next year. I would not want to play in Austin.
That includes playing UCF, and so maybe they win that game, maybe not. But I mean, you got Tennessee and Knoxville, you got LSU. I mean, it's just we got to go to Austin. We next year is one of the years that we go to Tallahassee. Maybe they'll opt out for that game. I don't know.
Keep your fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you this too: the Big Ten, they're going to have some tough times because they're getting some good teams in there too.
Yeah,
basically the Big Ten is getting the entire Pac-12.
Did Oregon?
Yeah,
Oregon and Oregon State went too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
No, 2 teams stayed out, but yeah, I think Oregon went.
Arizona, where did they end up? Are they in the Big 12? They moved to the Big 12.
I think they went to the Big 12.
They're going to be good. They kept their best players. I don't know how they kept them, but they did.
The Big Ten are adding Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington.
Washington. Boy, can you imagine? Can you imagine being Ohio State or Michigan and adding Washington onto your schedule?
But do you think that this year's Washington is similar to TCU?
It could be. I mean, they might lose guys. They could lose. Yeah. I mean, they're going to lose the best quarterback in the country. Sorry. He is the best quarterback in the country. And then they have maybe the best wide receiver in the country.
So what you're saying is the best quarterback in the country did not win the Heisman Trophy?
I am saying that.
It's similar to 2008 when the best quarterback in the country didn't win the Heisman Trophy. They gave it to fucking Sam Bradford.
But I was never going to die, is it?
I told you I'd get you sooner or later.
Yeah.
How'd they do head to head?
Anyway, I do think that if you look at the statistics, then he's probably should have won the Heisman. Penix, he should have, and they've won big games with him because of him. He looked
good last night.
He looked good last night. You never thought they were going to lose, did you? I mean, there was that moment at the end where he threw that
about
last
30
pass.
seconds to go.
Right. What the heck was going on there, right? But until that moment, you thought, okay, as long as he has the ball, there's no way they're losing this game. And they were up 9. I mean, it was just, that last drive was just insane. That's all it was. It was like a crazy pass gets caught, and all of a sudden you're 12 yards out, and now you can score. But I mean, Texas didn't play a bad game. They had a costly turnover at the wrong time, but let's talk about the playoff. Let's talk about the college football playoff, because we were talking about the whiners. Let's talk about Nick Saban. Like, he gets beat in the Rose Bowl. It's a good game in overtime, right? And he gets beat, and when they get beat, he can't admit that they got beat. He's got to say, "Oh well, we kind of beat ourselves, and we didn't really lose the game. They didn't really win so much as we lost the game. It was more about the things we couldn't accomplish rather than Michigan winning the game." And I watched the game, and Michigan won that game.
Michigan did to Alabama what Alabama did to everybody else.
Right.
So Alabama didn't adjust, didn't do anything, and they just couldn't figure it out. So for him to say that, now, do I see what he's saying is that, yes, could he control the bad snap at the end? No, he couldn't do anything like that. It's unfortunate, but you know what? You lost the game. I mean, don't put yourself in that position. Make the adjustments beforehand and not go into overtime.
And if you're not forgetting, they were ahead by 7
They
at
were.
the end of the game, and they let Michigan drive the field and score a touchdown.
They were. And that
They could win
drive,
the game.
75 yards to drive that and get down there and score, not just some, so yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, good for Michigan. They showed that they were, good for Harbaugh. He showed he's a smart coach. He knows what he's doing.
They never panicked.
Never at once. And
Never did it.
he went for it on 4th and I think it was 4th and
2.
well, it was 4th and 2, and then they got a penalty. So I think it turned out being 4th and 7. I don't know. It was a pretty big 4th down that he went.
Had
and
no
got.
choice but to go for
And
it.
yeah, but
Right.
he got it. And I mean, it was a heck of a game. I think the 2 games that they played right there showed that they picked they picked the right teams.
I'm with
I
Kev,
have to
though.
say that they did it.
I think Florida State's defense would have kept them in any of those games.
Yeah.
Sure.
Their defense that didn't opt out. I really think Florida State's defense was really
Yeah, but you know
good.
what? They weren't in it, so we can't say they weren't. With the 4 teams that were there,
Yeah.
they're there.
I mean, yeah.
So Florida State was in their game, great, and they got their ass handed to them. But if they would have been in the other one, then great, but they weren't. So,
I'll say this: for the time when Alabama scored and went up by 7, I thought they won. They had the game won. I thought Alabama, they're just going to win.
Yeah.
But there was an interesting tweet that I saw, and it was about Florida State. They said something about how Florida State got left out because of quarterback play, and here we have a kid in Jalen Milroe only threw for 112 yards, didn't throw a touchdown.
yeah, yeah.
So
They just didn't do what they needed to do.
No.
So give them credit. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a really good national
it's
championship
going to
game.
be
I think
offense
it'll
versus defense.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
And
'cause
we'll
I don't
see.
think Washington's defense isn't very good.
It's going to be a pretty good farewell game for Harbaugh. So I think it'll be good. We'll see what happens.
I heard San Diego Chargers for Harbaugh.
That's where I think.
I mean, it's going to be tough because then Belichick's going to go somewhere. So
I can tell you where he's going. Motherfucker going to Washington.
I think Washington there too. And I heard rumblings that Gruden is going to come back, but I don't know how that's going to happen.
That wouldn't surprise me if Gruden went to the Raiders. I mean, because him and Mark Davis are butt buddies.
But I don't see how he could come back to the Raiders. But I mean, it'd be interesting.
The most interesting rumor that I've heard is Kirby Smart to the Falcons.
I don't know.
I find that interesting, and there's a stupid contingent of people here that want Doug Peterson fired. Do you remember what the Jaguars were before Doug Peterson? I do.
Horrible.
They won 3 games in fucking 3 years, and so to all those people, go fuck yourself.
They won on Sunday.
They went 1-15
Yeah.
in order to get Trevor
We had
Lawrence.
back-to-back first picks.
Yes.
When you have back-to-back first picks, unless you're picking like the Bears, they have the first pick now because they traded with
Carolina.
Carolina, and Carolina sucks. So, and their owner is throwing drinks on fans and shit, and so you guys heard about that, right?
Yeah, got fined $300,000.
300 fucking grand, for throwing a drink, But to those guys, that's a fucking parking ticket, But but I would have made like $3 million. Yeah, don't throw shit. Yeah.
Well, before we move on to the NFL, because there was a bit of drama over the weekend in the NFL. Kev, do you got anything more you want to say about the playoff?
Yes,
College football
I
playoff?
do. I have a problem.
Oh,
Oh boy.
I have a problem, but it's not with Alabama, and it's not with Michigan, it's not with Texas, and it's not with Washington. Okay, my problem It was with the motherfucking NCAA. There ain't no goddamn reason we couldn't have had one of those games at 3 o'clock and one of those games at 7
yeah.
o'clock. But they fucking put the fucking first game on at 5 o'clock, goes into overtime, backs up the fucking second game because it's on the same motherfucking channel. It's on the fucking
Right.
4-letter network, right? So they put it on at 9 o'clock and kept the motherfucking Keb, up until 1 o'clock in the goddamn morning.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know that nobody could see me because we ain't got no goddamn viewers on YouTube right now, but I need my beauty sleep. I got to have it. I wake up in the
That's the
motherfucking
truth.
morning. Today was Tuesday. I had to go to fucking Waffle House, listen to my arguing friends, and all that shit, So the NCAA, they do this in basketball too. They put the bitch at the final game at 9 o'clock. What about the kids, man? I mean, when I was a kid, if they did that shit, there would have been a fucking argument between me and Tom Pound, and I probably would have lost, but that's cool, and I would have fucking figured out how to get a TV in my motherfucking room and watch it because they're putting it on too fucking late. It didn't kick off till 9:15, 9:20?
Right. It was late.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was on until 1 o'clock in the motherfucking morning.
Okay.
was
Well,
late.
we didn't hear from Patrick Mahomes' contingency, so for all the NCAA executives that are tuning in, it's at KEBLIVES. I'm pretty sure
I thought I'd give the Chiefs a week
waiting.
off.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought I could bitch about the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong, I
It's
watched
all
every fucking snap of that game, right? Because I was in the great state of Georgia, and they don't put you get different NFL games there than
Yeah.
you do here.
Yep.
And so I turned. Oh, also, so I subscribe to Hulu Live, right?
Mhm.
And so I was like, no, it's cool. I can watch the Jaguars on my phone, right? We're out and
Nope.
about in the great city of Savannah. We're out and about. Man, because of location services, it gives you
Yep.
their local, not
Yep.
our local.
That is
you know?
correct.
And I'm
You
like,
got
that's
screwed by
fucking
the old antenna.
stupid. That's fucking stupid.
Well, speaking
Yeah.
of the Jags, they won
They
with a backup quarterback. Not only did they win, they ran away with it. Right?
They
What was the
played
final score?
26-0. They play Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah. Worst team in the NFL.
Which made their last game of the season at at the Tennessee Titans, right?
Yeah.
The most it's a win and get in.
No,
So
it is
you
a
had-
must win. They
Yeah.
have to win that game in order to get into the playoffs.
Right, that's what I'm
There's some shit that can happen if we lose.
It's the easiest way is you
Win
win
and you're in. You
All right,
control
let's
your
tell-
own destiny.
Let's tell our listeners what'll happen if so say the Jaguars lose. Yet once again, we have to beat the Titans to get into the fucking playoffs. Isn't that the
Yes.
case?
Yes.
Most of the time. 2017, now last year we had to beat the Titans to get into. So if the Jaguars were to lose, now I do not believe Will Levis is playing. I believe he's still hurt. I believe we're going to get Ryan Tannehill, which is a good thing because Ryan Tannehill can very often be the best player on the Jaguars team. So,
Yeah.
so if the Jaguars were to lose, though, every Jaguar fan needs to become a very large Baltimore Ravens fan because the Steelers have to lose. The problem with that is the Ravens have already clinched the #1 seed, and they're probably going to sit people like, I don't know, Lamar Jackson, people like that. Mason Rudolph is starting for the Steelers. He has a tendency to throw the ball to the other team, but he played good last week. Buffalo winning helps the Jags because we beat Buffalo. But the problem is, I wish the Texans and the Colts weren't playing each other.
Correct.
Because if they were playing separate teams, they could both lose. And even if the Jaguars lose and they both lose, the Jaguars have the tiebreaker against them. But they're playing each other, so one person is going to have to win that game. And they would. If the Jaguars lose, they would win the division.
Well, if the Colts win, then they would win division. If the Texans win, they would all three be tied. And then it would come down to head-to-head. But then it would come down to the better division record, and
Which is the
Indianapolis would
Jaguars.
hold that.
Oh, really?
Indianapolis would hold it, and the Jags would be out of the playoffs.
Unless the Ravens beat the Steelers.
Correct. So it can go
There's
from
a way in. There's a way into that 7th seed.
it's a lot of have to this has to happen if they lose. But the easiest thing is they need to win.
Yeah, they need to be. I mean, and they'll be up. It's the Titans. You know,
Yep.
it's the hated Titans who once
Win
said
and you're
that-
in, lose and
Yeah.
you could go from 4th seed to out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean it's a pretty big swing.
Are we gonna have
And,
Trevor Lawrence back?
he'll play.
He'll play. This is the last game. He'll play.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wanted to bring up the situation in Denver with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos administration. What do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about that going on there?
Yeah, I think they handle it horribly, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to only hurt them. So, I mean, whatever they do, they're eating like what, 36, 39 million dollars of dead money next year if they get rid of him or cut him, and he's getting paid in March. So, what does he care? I mean, they rented him
Yeah, he
for
can go
a year,
play
did
for-
whatever, and
He can go play for whoever he wants if they cut him.
he's going to get picked up somewhere. I guarantee you, Russell Wilson's playing somewhere next year.
Quickly. He'll
Quickly.
get picked up. He'll get picked up quickly somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. He could go to Atlanta. He could go to Minnesota. He could go to Indianapolis. He could go to a number of places and be just fine.
Atlanta's like
Just
the
fine.
perfect place for him.
Atlanta
They
would
have,
be
they have
really
a solid
good
running
place.
game with Bijan Robinson. They have a
Yep.
better than average defense. I mean, they're in the mix for the division with
Yep.
the Saints and the Bucks.
Yep.
Atlanta would be a very good spot for them, especially with the running game that they have. They have a great tight end in Kyle Pitts. Go Gators. I mean, I think Atlanta is a great spot for him, but don't. I'm not a real big Baker Mayfield guy, and if you had the choice between Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson, who are you picking?
Yeah, I'd take Russell Wilson.
I'd
But
take Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time. You know, so
Currently?
the people are
Yeah.
saying, "Dude, did you see Baker last week?"
No, I didn't pay attention.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I watched this movie
He's
called
horrible.
The Replacements one time, and
Yeah.
I mean, he was horrible.
yeah.
So at least Russell is consistent. You know what I'm saying? And Russell Wilson isn't the only problem with the Broncos. You know, I remember 4 or 5 weeks ago, I said that they had to win out to get into the playoffs, and then I got dirty text messages from Bronco fans. You guys can, think of probably who texted me saying, I don't understand why everybody thinks that they need to win out. And look where they're at now.
Yeah.
I mean, they were total pretenders. They had a good run, just like everybody does. The Jaguars won 5 games in a row. The Jaguars also lost 4 games in a row. So, I think Russell Wilson isn't the only problem with the Broncos.
No.
And if you remember back on the refiltered days, St. Joe and I, we had a episode entitled "Fuck Walmart," and do you know who owns the Denver Broncos?
The Waltons?
The Waltons.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning has a slight ownership in there.
The
I would
majority
think, somewhere,
owner are the
but
Waltons
yes.
from Walmart. Yeah.
Yeah. He's more interested in Papa John's. But yeah,
Bud Light.
they're doing just fine. But yeah,
So
they got money to just piss away. So 39 million or whatever that they're eating is not going to worry. And
Well, St.
Sean
Joe,
Payton
did you
can do whatever he wants.
St. Joe, did you show up to the show today with your 15 seconds of fame or drama?
So you know what? Drama, I guess, is really what it's about this week.
Okay.
So not necessarily any gossip, but there's some gossip associated with it. I'm not sure that our listener really knows the gossip behind it, but there's gossip.
we'll tell them.
It's really so. I think it was, for me, it's kind of one of my favorite moments of the week, but it was filled with just heated drama, and it turned into a love fest that got a little sickening. But it was needed and it was good, and I'm glad that it happened. And what I'm talking about is during the halftime of the Dallas Cowboys game, Jimmy Johnson
Oh,
got
yeah.
inducted into the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. And it had been a sore spot for a long, long time. Troy Aikman loves Jimmy Johnson. I mean, it is beyond a shadow of a doubt right there that you saw how much Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, I mean, the teams that he coached, you could see, really, really good how much the players cared for him. But it was a very big, the gossip point of it comes into that it was set out there that Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones hate each other and that he's never going to get the spot and everything. And it came up to it where, they kind of kissed and made up. And they actually did share a little kiss on the cheek on the field there. And I was like, oh man. But when he gave his speech, he's like, there's one person that I need to thank, and it's Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones took the mic and said, there's one person I need to thank, and it's Jimmy Johnson. And it's like, come on. And, it was almost scripted out to be like, I love you. And it got a little much. But it was cool to see Jimmy Johnson get in there. And I think the best thing in the end, when he said, he says, I only got one more thing to say. And he says, how about them Cowboys? And everybody hugs him and everything. It was pretty cool. But for the 4 years that he was a coach of the Cowboys, that team was amazing. Yeah. I mean, they went to three Super. I want to say they went to three Super. I'd have to double, but I'm pretty sure they went to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. But I mean, he said they were the team in the 90s, and they really were the team in the 90s.
They were impossible to beat. It felt like
it was just incredible, and you could really see that. I like Jimmy Johnson a lot. I like him and his style of coaching. It's just him as a person. I think pretty highly of Jimmy Johnson, and it was good to see him get in there, and I think that was a pretty cool thing. So
yeah. I mean, it was a great source of nostalgia for those Cowboy fans who have been just starving for, you know, something.
And if you looked at, I mean, obviously Tom Landry, the other coach in there, Tom Landry and Jimmy Johnson, the only 2 coaches on there, which is pretty crazy. But then if you looked at the lineup that was on there when they came out, they brought out Roger Staubach. They brought out, all these people that are on the field. You're like, this is crazy. There's some pretty big names on the field there for the Cowboys. And you're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But
pretty sure Michael Irvin was there too.
Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Charles Haley, Troy Aikman. I mean, there was a lot of big name Cowboys, which was cool. Good for him.
They won in 92 and 93 with the Jimmy Johnson team. They won again in 95, but that was with Barry Switzer. And it's not because Barry Switzer's a good coach. Barry Switzer was a bad babysitter. And, I mean, we could have coached that team.
Yeah, he stepped in and filled the shoes of what Jimmy Johnson filled. I mean, it's basically, So, but it was good. It was really cool to see. That was probably the coolest moment for me this week, was to see that on TV. It was pretty fun.
Right. Cool. You want to hear about an obscure sport?
Oh,
I can't wait.
Please tell us about an obscure sport.
You want to hear about one? It's kind of fun.
Okay.
Let me bring it up here. Talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Oh, well.
Okay.
I thought you'd be prepared, but that's okay. It's
what are you typing in obscuresports.com?
I got it right here. But it scrolled on me. So not to pick on the people in Canada, because far be it for me to do that.
We have a lot of listeners in Canada. Be careful.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the sport of dragon boating?
Dragon boating?
Dragon boating.
Like dragons as far as like fire breathing,
Well, yeah. It's popular in Canada and also in China.
Yeah. I think I have, but go ahead and explain it. Go ahead.
So it's a 2,000-year-old Chinese sport. And it's basically they have these big ass boats that look like dragons, and I guess it's like a take on Crew a little bit.
Yes.
But there's like 50 people on the fucking boat,
Yes, there's
Right.
a lot of them.
and they're going down this river, and they have to pass through 3 sections of fire.
Interesting.
But it's in during the day, which kind of is like when they shoot fireworks off during the day. Doesn't make sense. It would look a lot cooler if it was at night. And the only description that I have here is that it's, quote, fucking stupid. I would expect nothing less out of the fucking Chinese. And I'm just kidding. It didn't say that. But that's your obscure sport. It's dragon boat racing. And similar to Crew, there's 2 boats that are going against each other. So
Yeah. There's that's not the first time that I've come across that. That's
the
down
dragon
here.
boat racing.
Yeah, there's actually a dragon boat racing team here in Jacksonville. And
That doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of fucking idiots in Jacksonville. Let me tell you this.
It's very funny that you say that because it's yes, when you said that, it's very similar to like crewing, and yeah, you get about a dozen people on there and they have a big boat, and yeah, I've seen it in person. It's very interesting. It's very odd.
Yeah, before we get out of here, did you guys what did you guys do for New Year's Eve?
Nothing.
I watched the ball drop.
Yeah.
I think we watched a movie.
Yeah, we had some neighbors. We had some friends over, and we did homemade. We made homemade pizzas and drank and watched the ball drop. It was a real kicker.
Yeah. In bed by 12:30?
No, we were up late. We actually we were up really late because we got hooked on a new show that we binged and watched, and yeah, it's creepy as hell, and yeah, we just couldn't put it down, so it was cool.
What show is that?
It's called The Act, and it's all about the new Gabby, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the chick that just got out of prison for killing her mom.
Oh yeah.
And it's very, very interesting. It's really, as a parent, you're like watching it going, this is insane.
Oh,
But
we watched the one on
it's crazy.
HBO. It was pretty good.
Yeah, but this is like one on Hulu or
Okay.
Prime. You can get it, and it's eight-part series, and it goes pretty in depth on what goes on, and
It was
it's just
insane. Absolutely insane.
just a crazy story. And it's one of those ones that you watch the one, and you're like, well, I can't not watch the next one.
Right.
So you sit there and watch it, and it was just very, very disturbing. And you're like, it's all about Munchkin, not Munchkin. I can't say it.
Munchausen's?
Yes, that's it.
Munchausen's by proxy.
Yep, that's
I
it.
like Munchkin better.
Munchkin syndrome sounds a lot better, but yeah.
Lollipop
Yeah,
guild,
yeah.
lollipop guild.
So
That was-
Munchausen's
that was
by
after we
proxy.
were done.
That's
That
an
was-
interesting.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very weird show, but yeah, it was interesting.
Ha-
She's
has
getting a lot
any-
of press now.
Has anybody seen Wonka yet?
No, my kid wants to go see it, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll see it sometime
I
this
heard
week.
it was
but-
good.
Yeah, I heard
it was
good
really
things about it.
It's musical.
I heard it's good, but yeah, I heard a lot of good things.
I just
But-
want to see Hugh Grant as a Oompa Loompa.
Hey, yeah, why not?
And I like
What?
that they stuck to the theme from the Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, rather than Tim Burton,
Yeah, yeah,
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
yeah.
Which is probably closer to the book, but yeah, whatever.
I just
right.
like the original one.
All right, fellas. Parting thoughts. Who wins this national title game next Monday? Washington, Michigan. Got to give a score too.
Oh, wow. A score too? Wow. Man, I'll say Michigan pulls it off. They've been there all year. They've been there. I'll say Michigan pulls it off. I say it's going to be close, something like 28-24. It's going to be something. It's going to be something close.
Yep.
I'm going to take Washington,
Mhm.
and I'm going to go a little higher score, but closer. I'm going to go 35-28.
Okay. I'm going to take Washington 27-24. Field goal at the end wins it.
Mm. Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. You never know.
Yeah,
We'll
I haven't seen the line yet. Is there a line on that game?
I haven't looked. It's got to be close.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but it's got to be close.
Yeah. So
I'm sure Vegas made a ton of money this week. That would be interesting to see how much.
I know
made.
Dave Portnoy made a ton of money.
Oh yeah, he bet $1 million on Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to hear about that.
Yeah. If you follow him on social media, we've already been hearing about it.
Oh yeah, he likes to talk.
You know, so, but anyhow, so Washington, Michigan. We'll know by the time that we talk next week, we'll have a winner. You know, and then we could talk NFL from then on out, college basketball, and then my favorite time of year,
Yeah.
baseball
coming.
season. Pitchers and catchers report pretty soon.
Oh, I
Pretty
think
soon.
that's perfect time for
You saw who the Braves acquired, did you not?
No.
The Braves acquired Chris Sale from the Boston Red
that's right.
Sox.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Via trade, right?
yeah, via trade for Vaughn Grissom. And when our GM Alex Anthopoulos went to Vaughn Grissom to tell him he'd been traded, he was explaining to him that we needed starting pitching, and Vaughn Grissom goes, "I can pitch." But it looks like it's going to be a really good trade for both sides. So, yeah, we need to start pitching, and the Red Sox need a second baseman. So,
Red
yeah,
Sox need a lot of things.
Vaughn Grissom is he's a stud, dude. He's 21 years old. He's going to play in the major leagues for a long time.
We're gonna have to monitor him this season.
Yeah, he may start the season at AAA, but he'll end it on the big club. You know, he can flat out fucking hit. You know, his defense is suspect. So, but he can flat out hit. Yeah, he's a 300 hitter easy. Yeah,
Cool.
So I was sorry to see him go, but anyhow, go everybody out there. You know, if you want to tell us who you're picking, you know, hit us on Twitter. You know, at our respective Twitter places. Go check out unfpod.com. Check out all the other shows over there. There's going to be a brand new promo on the front of this one, and you can go out and check out all those great shows. We get something for everybody every day of the week. So it's a good time to be at unfpod.com. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
Indeed. Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah. So. Anyhow, Happy New Year to everybody out there, and we'll see you next week after we watch a college football national championship game. So for St. Joe, for Beebs, my name is Kep. We'll catch you guys next week.
Catch you on the flippity flop.